In this video, I am going to talk about SQL Server replication. What is SQL Server replication and why do you need it? Let us say this is your database server, and database server is A, and you have few databases on this server. And let's say this is your OLTP application, and this is your web-based orders application. This OLTP application, it connects to this database server and write the records into the database. Okay, and this is your production database server. Okay, not only OLTP application, let us say you have a reporting server, reporting application, and it also connects to this database server and start accessing the database. You have the reporting server. Probably you might be having some third-party clients where you might want to generate some reports and send it to them. Okay, so your reporting server application, OLTP application, some ad hoc applications. Okay, so DBAs, developers, business analysts, testers. There are so many users who connect to this database server and start executing the queries. Okay, so the server might be really busy. For example, if you are getting too many orders, okay, 1,000,000 orders per day or something like that, a really busy server. So you might want to distribute the workload. Okay, so in that scenario, what you might want to do sometimes create another database server. Okay, the server is B, and replicate the data. Replicate the data from this server, from server A to server B. Okay, what you can do, you can copy and restore the database, whatever the database here. Okay, this database is your orders application. Okay, and you copy the database, and after that, any changes that are coming into the database, you capture those changes and send those changes to this server B. Okay, so that is sometimes you call it as a CDC, change data capture. Whatever the changes that are occurring on this server, you capture them and send it to B. Okay, so that you have the data on this server as well as this server. What you can do in that scenario, instead of pointing your reporting server application to this database server, you can point to this database, to this server, the server B. Okay, so what essentially you are doing, you are offloading queries. You are offloading the reporting server queries to the server B. Okay, so now your server is pretty much dedicated to a OLTP application. Okay, similarly, you might want to create another server. Okay, server, and point some of these applications to that server. Okay, so basically you have to distribute the workload. If you point all the applications, everybody to production server, then production server will be really slow. It will slow down. So you have to segregate the users. You have to distribute the workload. Okay, so in this scenario, you have to replicate the data from this server to this server. So how do you replicate? SQL Server replication. You can set up SQL Server replication between these two servers. So typically it could be server. So generally you might want to talk about database instance A, database instance B. The replication software, okay, the replication software, it replicates data between two database instances. The two database instance could be on the same server, or it could be on different server. Generally you will install one database instance on a server. You don't want to install too many database instances on a server. Okay, then you are putting a lot of pressure on that server. So this is a different server, and this is a different server, physical server. Okay, but in our demo we are going to have one server. I'm going to install two SQL Server softwares, Okay, and I'm going to create some databases on this server. Okay, and I'm going to replicate the data from instance A to instance B, because uh, I don't have multiple servers to replicate the data. So typically you can replicate the data from one instance to another instance. Okay, so you don't need to really have two different servers. But if you are working with SQL clustering or something like that, then you need to have different servers, multiple servers to cluster. But for the replication demo, you can create two instances. Okay, instance A and instance B, and you can create some databases, and you can start setting up the replication. Okay, so that's the purpose of the replication. It just replicates the changes that are occurring on the server A, and it writes the changes on this server. Okay, so do we have any other technology other than the replication to replicate the changes or to copy the changes, the data from one server to another server? We have different techniques. Okay, log shipping, database mirroring. Okay, always on, clustering. So these are various techniques we have to have a copy of database. Okay, for example, you have a database D1. Okay, so you can have a copy by using replication. You can set up the replication to send the changes from this server to this server. Okay, this is your same database D1 on this server. Okay, you can similarly you can use log shipping. You can set up the log shipping between server A and server B, and the log shipping, it just takes a backup of this database and restore on server B, and every 5-10 minutes, whatever the time frequency, it can take log backups and restore it on server B. Typically you can have a copy of production database on server B or some other different server, okay, using log shipping. But what is that replication? Replication is little different. So log shipping, it just copies the entire database. Okay, database will have many objects, tables, views, stored procedures, triggers, synonyms, sequence, plenty of objects. Log shipping copies the entire database from server A to server B. Okay, it just keeps the these two databases in sync. Okay, so every object on this server will be here. That's the same case with database mirroring. Okay, you set up the database mirroring from this server A to server B. Okay, so again you set up the database mirroring, log shipping on a database. Okay, so you can set up database mirroring on this database. Okay, for you can set up database mirroring from server A to server B. Okay, for this database D1. Again, it copies everything, whatever the objects, whatever is on D1, it copies everything over to or from B1 to B2. Sorry, A to B. Okay, always on, it is database mirroring plus plus. Okay, it is advanced features of database mirroring. You set up the always on between these two databases. Okay, so your D1 database on server B will be in sync with A. Okay, clustering, you really use it for high availability technique. You don't use it for reporting or disaster recovery purposes. Okay, the clustering is typically used for high availability requirement. Okay, so here when you set up log shipping, it copies the entire database, but generally you see reporting application, here reporting application, it doesn't need all 200 tables, whatever the tables that you have. For example, let's say your database is database contains 200 tables. okay, and this is 10 terabytes of database. Your reporting application needs, for example, 20 to 30 tables that occupies 200 GB. That's it. Okay, your reporting application doesn't need more than 20 to 30 tables on server B. So why do you want to copy the entire database here for reporting application? Right? You don't need to have a copy of the entire database copy of server A to server B. So that's where the replication come into picture. It doesn't copy entire database. In the replication, you can set up such a way that you can selectively copy the tables. Okay, in the replication you can say, okay, these are the tables I wanted to replicate. Okay, but you can't say that with the log shipping or database mirroring. You have to copy entire database. Again, with database mirroring you can't read the secondary database. With replication you can say, okay, replicate the 20 tables from this server to this server. Okay, and your reporting application can read the tables on this server. Okay, that's not the case with database mirroring. Database mirroring, when you set up database mirroring from server A to server B for a database, you cannot read the database on server B. Okay, it is purely a disaster recovery method. Okay, but whereas in replication you can read the tables. Okay, the replication software, it will keep replicating, it will keep applying the changes, whatever the changes that are occurring on this server, on server A, it will capture and keeps applying those changes on server B. At the same time, the reporting application can also connect to the server and read the tables. Okay, so that's what the replication functionality. But again, the replication, it doesn't replicate all the objects. It replicates certain objects. For example, tables, views, stored procedures. I guess these three. Okay, I don't know if it replicates anything else. We will look into those things when we set up the replication. Now, in the replication, there are three types of replication. You have snapshot replication, transactional replication, merge replication, and there is one more called peer-to-peer. Okay, there are four types, I would say. So snapshot replication. So what the snapshot replication is, you have database A. On the server. Okay, let's say let's say the server is source. Okay, and this is a target server. Okay, so you have a database. Snapshot means it when you set up snapshot replication for this database on this server, on this from this server to this server. Okay, you set up a snapshot replication from source to target. That means what you are achieving is you are taking entire snapshot of this database. That means entire copy of the database and put it here. Take a snapshot of this database and put it here. That means if the a snapshot, you can set up a snapshot replication and say that, hey, every 1 hour take a snapshot of this database from server A, okay, from source server, and apply it, okay, and put the snapshot, apply the snapshot on target server. Okay, every 1 hour it takes the entire database copy and apply the apply the changes on target server. Okay, so if it is 100 GB, every 1 hour it takes a copy of 100 GB and move it to the target server and apply it there. Okay, it's a very very cumbersome process. Sometimes you may need it. For example, if the database is really smaller, okay, let's say it is a 1 GB database, okay, or 500 MB database. Okay, So 500 MB database or 1 GB database, they are very small, tiny databases. So you can apply, you can set up snapshot. Okay, every day, every 6 hours, you can set up a snapshot or replication to run every 6 hours or one day to to send the snapshot from source to target. So transactional replication, what is this? Transaction replication, see here you have OLTP application. Okay, whatever the application, here you have OLTP application that is connecting to the server. Okay, this is your production server and this is your production application server. Okay, your production application server is writing the records into your production database, and all the time it is keep writing some transactions into the database. So those changes, as and when the change occurred on the source server, you wanted to capture the changes and send those changes to the target server. That's what the transactional replication does. It's a unidirectional replication which replicates the changes that are occurring on the source server and apply it on the target server. Okay, it's a unidirectional one-way replication. Again, snapshot is also a one-way, but it takes the entire database copy and put it. If you but the transaction replicates. It replicates the transactions from source server to target server. Okay, it doesn't apply the entire database snapshot. First, when you set up, see, if you wanted to have a complete copy of database on the target server, what you have to do? First, you have to apply the snapshot replication. First, you have to take the snapshot of this database and apply it here, and after that, set up a transaction replication. Going forward, whatever the changes that are occurring, right? Those changes you have to apply. Then you got a complete copy of the database, right? Whatever the tables that you have on production source server will be on the target server, exact copy. For that, what you have to do? First, you have to create a snapshot replication and apply the snapshot, and after that create a transaction replication that keeps sending the changes. Whatever the moment you set up the transaction replication, from that point it will start capturing the changes and send it to the target server. Okay, but whatever the data that you have prior setting up the transaction replication, you have to take snapshot replication to copy the changes. Okay, that's what you call it as initializing the target, initializing the this database. Okay, how do you initialize this database? That means how do you get the snapshot? Okay, we'll talk about those terms later, but I just want you to understand what is snapshot, what is transactional. Is it a unidirectional or bidirectional, whatever it is. I just want to understand the very high level picture, and we'll look into the details later on. Okay, now these two are unidirectional replication, and this merge and peer, they are bidirectional. That means, see here, your OLTP application, it is writing records into this server. Okay, and you are sending the changes, whatever the records that you are writing whatever the records that you are writing into the source server, you are sending the changes to the target server using transaction replication. But how about you have another OLTP application that is writing records into this target server? Okay, there is another OLTP application, there is another application which is writing records into this database. So you wanted to capture those changes and apply it to this source server, to this database, right? So you have some records getting inserted here, you have some records getting inserted here. So you have to send the changes bidirectionally, you have to send. Okay, so that is where these two replication come into picture. The merge and peer-to-peer, they are bidirectional replication software. They send the changes between the nodes. You call the server, this server and this server as node in bidirectional replication. Okay, so that is what it is. So again, what is the difference between these two? Okay, so for example, let us say you have customer ID 1. Okay, and here you have customer ID 1 on this database, Okay, this is on source server, this is on target server. You update customer ID 1 here. Similarly, you update customer ID 1 here at the same time. At the same time, you update the customer ID 1 on both source and target. Okay, so what this so in that case what happens, the replication software, it applies the changes, whatever the changes here. Okay, it applies here, and here already there is another change. Okay, for the same record, it tries to apply it here. So there will be a conflict occurs. Okay, who is going to win? Okay, what is the actual change? Okay, what data? So now here I update the name from something. Okay, from Ramu 1 to Ramu 2, and so what is the exact correct name? How do I resolve that conflict? Okay, similarly I delete a record here and I delete a record here. Okay, insert, update, insert. Okay, insert, update. Okay, conflicts are several types of conflicts. Okay, the conflict resolution is much superior in merged replication. Okay, whereas in peer-to-peer the conflict resolution is not so great. Okay, it is very simple conflict resolution, but it has its own advantages. So then you might think, okay, if it has a simple conflict resolution, why we have peer-to-peer in the first place? Okay, see, peer-to-peer it has its own benefits. If you have a specific requirement, then you can use peer-to-peer replication. For example, you have company in USA and company in England. Okay, United Kingdom. Okay, so you are inserting, you have orders table. You have orders table here. You are inserting USA orders into the into the orders table. Similarly, you are inserting UK orders into the table. So you set up peer-to-peer replication between these two tables. Okay, tables means the tables reside in a database, so you set up peer-to-peer replication between the two databases for this table. Okay, so you operate USA orders here and you operate UK orders here. So when you replicate the changes, okay, you are replicating the USA orders to UK server and you are sending UK orders to USA server. So the data is partitioned, the data is divided. You are not operating on same set of data. UK is working on UK based orders, USA branch is working on USA based orders. So the data is partitioned. So you are sending the changes from USA to UK, so that is fine. The conflict will not occur there. Okay, you have to properly segregate the data. You have to properly identify, okay, you are working on two different data sets. You are working on two different partitions of data in the same table. You don't collide. Then in that case, peer-to-peer will be much easier than merge. There are some requirements for peer-to-peer, but overall, if if you see, a lot of people, they use transactional replication. Okay, this is so common, this is so popular. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate snapshot, transactional, and of course maybe peer-to-peer. Okay, I'm not going to talk about merge because it takes a lot of time. Okay, so peer-to-peer, the transactional is unidirectional. It just replicates the data from source to target, and snapshot is just take the entire database and send it over to target and apply it there. Okay, so let's take a look at the details of how the transactional replication works. Okay, the transactional replication.